Welcome back to 8-Bit Hindsight. We are here again. I am way too energetic for this. This is what coffee does to you kids. So today we're gonna do something that we love to do, which is talk about games. Specifically, we're talking about some of our favorite indie games from anytime. It doesn't matter when. And we're each gonna pick one. We're gonna describe what it is, and then tell why we picked that one. But before we do that, I'm Rick.
John.
I'm Nathan.
And we're 8-Bit Hindsight. Now we're going to get right into it because, there's really nothing else to say. So, John, why don't you go first? What indie game did you choose?
I put a lot of thought into it. I play a lot of games. And, the one that comes to mind the most is probably the most successful one that I've ever played. It's called Rimworld. Rimworld. It's a top-down construction management simulation game by Ludion Studios. They started developing on it November 2013. They released it around October 2018, and they even after release, they've continually been releasing new DLCs for it. It started as a very small company, and then it's been so successful that it's grown into a much larger company. So I guess now it may not be considered an indie game. I think it still is, but okay. So,
I think it's an indie game based on what it was when it first came out, right? You can't say, this one game made that studio, and so it's not an indie game. I think it's still fair.
Okay. Okay, so the game takes place in a really distant future. Humans are apparently more spread out, and Earth seems to be gone. So you're space travelers, and you crash land on a planet, and the planet's procedurally generated, so you can find a seed that you like, and if you pick that seed every single time you start over, it'll be the exact same map. So that's pretty cool.
Is this like a big boy version of Minecraft or something?
Sort of. I think it's a different boy version of Minecraft. It's Minecraft is first person. This is over the top. You're controlling your troops, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Like if Minecraft and StarCraft had a baby.
Horrifying. Anyway.
So it's the camera perspective of Age of Empires, that kind of thing?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But the survival mode and explorer mode and building mode of Minecraft.
Interesting.
So when it first started out, it was pretty basic. You start out with nothing. You can build wooden buildings. You can mine. You can build a couple of benches, a stove. There's no electricity yet because you have to build up to it. And you start out. You can put in mods. I don't really do a whole lot of mods. You start with 3 people, so you have to figure out how to do everything. With limited food, limited supplies to begin with, and one person has to be hunting. You have to figure out how to store the food. At the beginning, it's a huge mess of how you're going to do things. Plus, sometimes you get attacked.
Okay, so there's a combat element.
Yes, there's definitely a combat element, and it's a real big pain sometimes. There's multiple storytellers, basically difficulties. There's one called Randy Random. He's probably what people have the most fun with. You put him on, then put a moderately difficulty on, and he'll throw maddened animals at you because on this planet there's psychic waves that get thrown around and cause people to go crazy, or cause people to be happier. That's an option also. So yeah, there's all sorts of things that can happen. And then with the second DLC, it was called Royalty, to where there's actually an Empire faction that you can either work with or go up against, and they can either wreck your shit so you can either go up against them and get your shit wrecked, or you can go with them. And at the end, there's like 4 different ways to win the game at this point. You can build a ship. You can. There is an AI telling you that there's a ship somewhere on the planet. You have to go there, fuel it up, and you get attacked while it's powering up. And then if you survive till it's powered up, then you leave and you travel among the stars. And then I guess there's only 3. And then there's with the Empire, when you're ready and have good relations with the Empire, they come and have to stay with you for 10 days while they get their ship ready to take everybody out. So basically, you win the game when you are able to leave the planet.
Okay. Is there any continuation to the game after you leave the planet, or is it like you just restart?
No, you just restart. Like,
Okay.
So I've done like probably 20 playthroughs, and
Wow.
only left once just because that's the other game. You can keep on going. Like I've had it where I've had like 200 colonists.
So you just didn't complete the game because you were having fun with it.
Right. Exactly.
So it's like a simulation strategy game. Is that?
Yeah, definitely go along with that. You definitely have to like think of how you're going to do things, especially at the beginning. Like, and then you have when you get more people, you have certain people designated towards being doctors and hunters, and then tailors and craft different sorts of crafting. It's actually really cool. Like, you can have it set when you get attacked. You draft your army people, and then you assign everybody else that's not army people to like stay indoors. They don't get caught in crossfire. It's all a bunch of really cool stuff you can do with it. Yeah, it's a very in-depth game.
Based on like what I've thought about this game for all these years, that is not what I expected it to be. So maybe I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, well, I know there have been multiple times where I've told you definitely should give it a shot. But
yeah, you've been telling me that since it released, but
yes. But with the want to talk about the other 2 DLCs before I finish real quick. The second DLC is called Ideology. It's where basically it brings religions into the game, and it introduced like dryads to where you can plant a tree and it springs dryads from it, and they can do different stuff for you, being either help you with combat, or it gathers wood for you, or fuel, any number of things.
yes, grow my tree, people, and then jump in that furnace.
Right. And then with the ideology thing, basically religion, you have to before you recruit like a prisoner. The biggest way to get new colonists is to take somebody prisoner that you don't kill when they attack you, put them in your prison, and then talk to them every day until they're like, you know what, I like you, I'm going to join your team, and there you go.
So is there not like a like birth death system where like you can increase your population?
I'm getting there.
No.
So with ideology, if they weren't following your religion, you can convert them, but if you don't, they're going to have a like negative modifier to their mood because they're belonging to a colony not following their religion. And then you can customize your religion. You can like be like, my religion loves blood sacrifices every Tuesday, different stuff like that. Okay, the best one, the newest one, it's bio. I don't remember what it's called, like biotech, and it finally introduced babies. So like you've since beginning, you've always been able to get married or have a girlfriend, and have affairs and all that, but there is really like no point. It just happened, but now you have like babies, and you have to like have a crib ready. You have to, when they're pregnant and they're having the baby going into labor, you have to have the doctor go escort them to the hospital bed so they can have the baby in a safe spot. And there's all sorts of crazy stuff you have to do it. And every 3 years while the baby's growing up, you have to have it learning the entire time, but also every 3 years you can select different bonuses that'll it will get based on how well it was learning during the time, and so you can actually develop your new additions to your colony.
Okay, cool. I mean, a lot of that sounds weird. So, really, the only way then to before the babies, was there any other way to like improve the number of people you have?
Taking prisoners and then recruiting them was one way, and then there are slave traders that bring slaves, and then you can buy them, and then some of them will join you automatically as a colonist, or some will join you like as a slave, because in all ideology it also introduced like slavery.
Okay,
um
but like in vanilla game, the only way to actually like improve the number of people you had was to actually win the fight, right?
no, there's also events like where crash landing happens, and like a this person belongs to no faction, so you can save them or capture them, and there'll be no repercussions, because if you capture like an enemy, the enemy will hate you more, which isn't a big deal. They already hate you. um,
Hmm.
but if you just rescue them, the character has the option to join you or not.
Can
So
you
like
imagine
it's
that
a
crash landing on an alien planet, and the first thing that happens is like some dude with a clipboard shows up. Welcome here, join our colony. We
right.
have blood sacrifices on Tuesday, and we serve Slanesh.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
also have health insurance. Like, oh, okay, cool.
That does kind of sound awesome, though.
Free healthcare. It's not optional, actually. It's mandatory healthcare.
It's if you get sick, we kill you so that the rest of the tribe doesn't get sick.
We might, if you get sick, we might harvest your lungs.
Oh, but if you have a headache, we drill a hole into your skull and release the demons.
Yes. You can actually like harvest organs and stuff for your colony. It's
Yeah, all right, they paid a lot of attention to the weirdest places in this game.
yeah. You can definitely get rich off of like harvesting organs and selling them to certain traders.
Okay. Anyway,
Yep.
so is there anything else about Rimworld that you wanted to mention?
I think without going like into an hour, I could probably go on for an
All
hour,
right,
but
don't do
then
that.
yeah. I think I mostly covered everything. You can, there's animal like with I think ideology. You used to be able to train animals, and they used to just hang around your house, and it was really annoying because they made it dirty and pissed off your colonists, and it was a real pain. But with ideology, they made it to where you could like do fenced in pens, and it was really nice. Although it's really annoying because they have like one health, so if a rock gets thrown at them, it's destroyed, and all your animals run out of the pen and try to escape. And so you have to, while you're getting attacked, you have to fix your pen and get the animals back in. But it's definitely a lot nicer not having your house get dirty.
Okay, cool. So that was Rimworld. The next game we're gonna have talking about is yours, Nate. Which one did you choose?
So I was thinking of doing a shmup because I like shmups, but like a bullet hell game. But I decided to go with a game that came out this year actually, and it's called Signalis. So I'm a really big fan of Resident Evil, and I really like the old Resident Evils too. I like the new ones too, but I also like the old ones where you have fixed camera angles and they're like tank controls essentially. Have you guys played the old Resident Evil games?
I
Nope.
played parts of 3 and parts of 2, and then a little bit of 4.
Okay,
So
four
I've
is
sampled them.
okay. So like one of my favorite games is Resident Evil Remake, and that game is really atmospheric. What I really like about the game is essentially imagine like to me it reminds me of a board game. So you're a character and you move around in this like usually a building, and there are rooms that you have to go and explore. And as you explore, you have to essentially get key items that will help you progress forward. But you have a limited inventory too. So essentially, you can only pick up certain items at a time, and so you have to strategize when to pick up certain items. And essentially what happens is, let's say you find a door and you realize that there's a specific item you need to use, so you have to go back to a specific location. Well, what makes it scary is, like, for instance, if you didn't have enough ammo and you ran away from an enemy, and then you have to later go back to that room, that's pretty tense. So strategizing on how to essentially, it's like backtracking really, but like essentially going back to a location and trying to strategize a way to get these items and survive while you have limited bullets. I really like that game design.
So are those
Uh,
like safe spaces or like bases that you go back to, or is it just like an empty area?
so usually in these Resident Evil games, there's a save room, and which is the same in Signalis too. So Signalis, it's essentially an old Resident Evil game. It has a little bit of Silent Hill inspiration too. Like the save room, when you save, it turns bright red. That's a Silent Hill thing. But it's a really good game, really atmospheric. There was a game that came out, I think last year or early this year. It was called Tormented Souls, and it does the same thing. It's trying to be like an old Resident Evil game. And I was really excited when it came out, but essentially that game is really flawed because in these types of games, you have to be able to manage all of these keys and items that you need to progress. And that game didn't balance that well. They'll give you like maybe like 10 different doors that you could go through and like 20 different key items, and it's hard managing when to use what, and it's just not a well-paced game.
So
But
does
Signalis,
Signalis does that well?
yeah, Signalis does it really well. Kind of woman essentially in a spaceship, and you essentially are looking for this girl, and essentially you go into this like spaceship compound that's been overrun by like these zombie things, and you're going around looking for this girl, and it's like the building itself is, I think it was like 8 floors,
Mm-hmm.
and it's essentially you have to go floor by floor, and it's really well designed, and it's really moody. um the enemies are tense
So is it like
in some.
a? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah, and the enemies can get, like it can be pretty tense, the game, for a game like that.
Yeah.
Is it like a first person or a third person?
So old Resident Evil games were third person, but they're fixed cameras. So let's use Resident Evil Remake as an example. Like here's how they're different though. So Resident Evil Remake, when you're walking around, they're like still camera shots, like still shots, and they're very well framed, and they can kind of jump around. Like some can be above you, some can be like really close to you. Like it looks like a movie when you're playing it, but they're all fixed camera. So the character can be in the corner of the screen. Sometimes it could be, the camera varies. And what's good about that is, like, for instance, let's say you walk into a room and you have a camera that's close to you, but you hear zombies, for instance. You don't know when you're walking when the camera's angle is going to change. So you don't have any control over the camera at all. And that creates a lot of tension. That's one thing that Signalis doesn't do, though. Everything is like completely from a bird's eye view, very above. It's there's no like
Very
cuts into
top down.
creative camera. Yeah, it's a top down kind of thing. So that's
Okay.
the only area that's different. But other than that, it's essentially the same formula.
Okay. So do you think the top down camera is still effective at creating that horror? Because I'm guessing this is a horror game.
Yeah, it's a horror game. I mean, so yes and no. Like, I mean, it is effective. And out of all the like indie games that's trying to be like an old school Resident Evil kind of game, it's probably the best. But it's not as good as like Resident Evil Remake because the budget, the way it looks, the camera angles, you can't really beat that. But I think Signalis is like really close to it though. Like it's really, really good.
Okay.
And
Who developed it?
yeah. I think it's like two, I forgot the company's name, but it's like two game developers worked on it supposedly for a few years.
Oof.
And yeah, they're really good at what they do. It's kind of interesting too. It kind of has like an anime aesthetic, which is kind of weird. But like
Really?
the anime aesthetic though, it looks kind of like, when you see like Western artists
Anime
try to mimic anime style, like it looks a little bit like that. But
Signalis.
in a slightly good way. Like it doesn't look like terrible or anything, but it does
Oh,
kind of have
okay.
that anime look. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely has like a more cartoony look than Resident Evil did. Ooh.
Yeah. But I like the space aspect of it too, and
So, oh, this was actually released pretty recently.
yeah, only like a month ago or
Yeah,
so.
October 27th, 2022, and it's developed by Rose Engine and
Yeah, Rose
published by
Engine.
Humble Games and PlaySim.
Okay.
I really recommend it. It's really it's just really fun. If any of you like old Resident Evil games, that's the one to play.
I think that one. I actually saw that one in my queue, and I think it's in my wish list right.
You should check it out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean it's only like $20, so yeah, that definitely. How long is the
definitely
game?
worth
Have
it.
you beat it?
I'm like really close to beating it. I was playing God of War Ragnarok, so I wasn't able to like completely finish it because they came out around the same time.
Hmm.
But I'm really close, and it's really good.
Do you know how many hours you're in? Or
I should probably not too. I'm probably like 7, 8 hours in.
okay, so it's relatively good size for an indie game.
Yeah, but I'm also taking my time
Oh, okay.
with it. So I don't know what it would be like if you just straight up play it, but it's pretty good. Very moody.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think I'll probably check that one out. Like sometimes I see things that looked interesting and then they'll sit in my wish list for a while.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check it out too. It sounds like one to give a shot.
Yeah. I mean, and hopefully like all the indie games we talk about today are ones to give a shot. And it does sound like our selection is very disparate because we didn't talk about this before we chose the games we chose. We just
Yeah.
said pick an indie game and we each ran with it. And Nate choosing the horror game and you choosing Rimworld. Those two were kind of right around where I thought we would be, mainly because you never stopped talking about Rimworld. But Signalis is definitely an interesting game. I wasn't expecting that game.
Yeah, I recommend it. If you like horror, yeah, this is a good one.
Okay, is there anything else you want to say about Signalis?
I mean, it's the best game out that mimics that old Resident Evil look and feel, but it's still its own game too. That's what makes it really good. And there's some like splashes of Silent Hill in it, so it's all the stuff that I like,
Yeah, I mean,
and
it
it
has
does
that
really
like
well.
pixelated. Dude, it does have a really interesting art style because it has that almost like what, like Dreamcast or maybe like PS1 era like graphic kind of design, like like polygons and stuff. But then it also has like these really nice looking like anime style characters drawn in, so
Yeah,
that does look kind of interesting.
yeah, I
Um,
really like it.
okay, well then I guess it's my turn. We're gonna do a little bit of a curveball on this one. The one I chose is Kynseed by Pixel Count Studios. This game was released November 8th of 2018. Most people would probably think I would choose a strategy game. This is actually I guess a sim, like a life sim. It's very reminiscent of your old, like Harvest Moon, Stardew Valley, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
But one of the things I like about it, first of all, it's continued to update. So it opened in like an open beta, like it wasn't finished, but they needed to get people kind of some buzz going, and they also probably needed funds to finish it. But they've been super consistent about updating what they are going to update when they say they're going to update it, and that leads me to my next point. From what I understand, version 1.0, so the full release, should be happening on December 6th of this year. So I'm super excited. So in the same way that Stardew Valley started with kind of like a humorous kind of jab at the style of game that it was, which i.e. farming sim, you know, by like having you work at a mega corporation and like the guy sitting next to you in the cubicle is a skeleton because he's dead. He died at his desk or something. Like it takes that humorous kind of like take on it. This one does that, but with like a fantastical element. So all of the things in the world kind of like rhyme, like when they're giving you like little player notes and stuff like that. Whenever they're giving you like narration, it all rhymes. So it's kind of like that old style like Mother Goose storybook kind of feel. But essentially, you and your sister or brother, depending on which you choose to be, you can be the boy or the girl, create your own kind of character. Essentially, your twin. You live with the little old woman in the shoe, right? And some dude comes along one day and he's like, hey, you know, you got too many kids. I need a couple of people to help me work my farm. Let me take them. And your mother, being like mother of the year, is just like, yeah, take them, get out of here. And you're just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then, so he takes you back to his farm. He's a nice old dude. And you start like kind of getting the ropes. So you do like, you know, your traditional stuff. You learn how to plant some fields. You learn how to collect some stuff from the ground, mushrooms, berries, stuff like that. And you basically are trying to build your family up, right? And I'm going to give you a little bit of the first part of this because you need it for the context of how the game works. So slight spoilers, but not really, because it's all done in like the first hour of the game. You eventually go through like, I think it's your first year where you get, you know, the hang of buying stuff, making money. You learn how the shops work. You learn how to craft. You learn how to fish. You can discover certain areas, and you can meet like each individual person in the game is someone you can meet and have a relationship with. So, you know, like you do things for them, they become friendly to you. Well, at the end of the year, you go to like the fairy realm or whatever, and you meet someone named Mr. Fairyweather or Merryweather. I don't remember what his name is. Fairweather, that's his name. He's like some weird cat demon thing. No, he's a cat demon wearing like a shamanistic thing. Like it's crazy. Anyway, so you meet him, and he makes you a deal. He gives you what they call the Kynseed, which is an actual seed, and you go and you plant it in your farm. And that's kind of where the game really begins when you actually think about it, because like the whole year up to that point is the tutorial. So that Kynseed allows you to, when you grow up and have kids, when your character dies, you're supposed to be able to take over control of your child and continue living through him or her. And essentially you create another family or another branch of your family tree, and you continuously do this, building your essentially empire, your fairyland empire over 1,000 years or whatever. Oh. And that's the story of the game. But, you know, throughout you can buy shops themselves, and then either you can work in them or you can hire villagers to work in them. Like me, in my playthrough, I've bought like 2 different blacksmith shops, and you know you start making good money on it. And the whole point of it is like build up your farm, build up your empire, build up your family. Like that's kind of the whole thing. And then there's like different fairy realms that unlock at different times, and you can kind of go there, do different things. A lot of it is very complicated though. Like anything you cook, craft, or stuff like that, you have to play like little mini games to, you know, determine essentially if it succeeds and then how good it is. I do like the variety of characters and like the things you get. Like there's always something to do, and there's always something you're gonna forget to do. So the wiki is definitely your friend.
I'm kind of interested in how detailed it gets. You said you had 2 blacksmith shops.
Oh, so
do you
there's
have like employees?
Yes. So
Okay.
There are, from the last time I played, which granted was a couple of months ago, because I'm waiting for the release of the full thing, the 1.0 release. I believe there's 4 different areas of the human realm that you can go to before you start looking into like fairy realms and stuff. And each one of them has like their own trader, their own blacksmith, their own apothecary, their own, what are they called? Tavern. So, and you can buy them. Like they're all for sale if you can get enough money together. And I bought 2 of the blacksmith shops and then married the girl that was running another one.
Dude, I'm surprised you picked this one.
Why?
I don't know, it just doesn't sound like you.
What did you think I was gonna pick?
I don't know. I thought I like it's like how you open. I thought you were gonna pick a strategy game or something like that. So it's just funny that you picked this like I don't know. It kind of sounds like Animal Crossing kind of
It's like
that kind of
so.
thing.
Yeah, there is a combat element in it too, which I actually like the combat. Honestly, man, like this is just a really good game. And when we talked about doing an indie game thing, this was the first one that came to mind, and I was like, you know what, this is a game that deserves the spotlight, and I actually enjoy it. So because I enjoyed Stardew Valley too.
Yeah, the game definitely reminds me of Stardew Valley, and it sounds a really, really cool game.
Well, the other thing is like it's also very cheeky. So like there's notes from the developers left all over the world in like sort of like rhymes and stuff. Like there's a lot of rhyming in this game. It definitely breaks the fourth wall every so often by like just the things that are said and like the references that it's making. And it's just meant to be a good time. I don't know. I enjoy the game, so. But yeah, no, it's not your typical strategy game, so. I had a backup that was a strategy game, but I decided on this one.
What was it?
It's actually called Radio General. It's a very small game, but you get to basically go through like historical battles. But the deal of it is that it's from the perspective of a general sitting in his tent, commanding over the radio with the battle. So there is an actual there's an audio portion where you can give voice commands to command your troops, and the pieces move. But each piece is like it's just like a little infantry piece, and then if you move it to the right area, or if you continuously update your map to where the units are in the right areas that they're supposed to be after you tell them to move, or they're in combat, they'll be better in combat. So maintaining a map that is correct is important. And then you basically, you fight through, and you have to do it all based on the reports you're getting from your troops on the radio. So they'll be like, hey, we're at this location and we're engaging this group at this location. You kind of have to look at your map and be like, oh, okay, they're here and here. And then you put like your little pieces down to show it. It's a fun game. It's actually, a little bit challenging too because it's a different style of strategy than I'm used to.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool also.
Yeah, it's only like $10 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds interesting.
Yeah. So, so my indie game was Kynseed. Is there anything else?
Are all three of these games Steam games? Ones you can find on Steam?
Mine is.
Oh, yeah, same. Rimworld is also on Steam.
And Signalis is on Steam too. I know. I just looked it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's on everything. It's on consoles. I have it on the Switch.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Okay, yeah. So all of these are on Steam if you want to go check them out. Apparently some of them are also on consoles, so that's cool too. Is there any final thoughts, John?
Not unless we want to do like honorable mentions.
Actually, why not?
Yeah.
This is our show. We do what we want.
Right.
All right, real quick, lightning round. Honorable mentions, go.
Honorable mention. We already did a podcast on it, but Kenshi. It's an amazing game that I have spent so many hours on.
That was the one I thought you were going to talk about.
Yes, of course. It's within my top 5 games. Like they did such a great job on it. Basically, you go around as a storyteller. You're controlling characters. You recruiting more characters and developing them into however you see fit within the game's parameters, of course. But it's just a really fun game. I definitely check it out for anybody interested in creating your own story with characters.
Cool. So Kenshi, obvious one. We've already done a podcast on that one. So
yes,
I think we've also done a review on the YouTube channel that we haven't updated in years.
Yep.
Cool. Nate, honorable mention, go.
I'll do Mushihime-sama. It's essentially a shmup that I recently got on Switch. Yeah, it's really good. It's well paced. The controls feel really good. So if you like bullet hell games, I really recommend that one. But I also like Disgaea games too. They're just kind of quirky strategy games.
The Disgaea games, are those not like major developers?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, they definitely have an indie flair to them.
Huh. I always thought they were like owned and made by an actual studio.
They are made by an actual studio, but I don't know. I usually think of it as indie, but maybe it's not.
Oh well. Either way, they are fun games. So, They're long ass games too. Holy shit.
Yeah, they can continue forever if you want it to.
Okay, so my honorable mention, I'm going to throw you another curveball, Nathan. It's called Bear and Breakfast. And essentially, it's a management adventure game where like you're a physical bear, like Yogi the Bear. You are that bear, and his name is Hank. And you're running your own bed and breakfasts in different parts of your forest, trying to get humans to come back after I guess there was a fire. I haven't finished the story yet, but essentially you keep building up each site. Like this weird shark keeps giving you tasks you have to complete to improve each one. And you're just over there, focused on the grind, trying to make money as a bear with his bed and breakfasts. So,
dude, that kind of sounds awesome.
Dude, it's fun. It's only like $15, and it's like super low threat, right? Like you're not gonna like, oh man, I'm gonna starve, but like it's fun to be like, oh, how do I manage? How much money can I make by managing these rooms properly? Should I go with a bigger room for more stuff? Should I go with a smaller room? And then like the shark is just there as like a comedy relief. Like he gives you directions, right? But he's like a super sleazebag for like this big corporation. And like some of the in-game dialogue is pretty funny. It actually released in the summer of this year, so it's pretty new. It's by Gummy Cat Studios and Armor Games Studios is the publisher.
I'm surprised they called it they used bed and breakfast, not Airbnb. Well, because like bed and breakfast
we
is
love
that
bad
even
puns.
really a thing right now? Like I don't know. I haven't heard bed and breakfast in a long time, but maybe that's just me.
I think they're a thing. I mean, Bear B&B, that should... all right, if anyone from this studio ever listens to this, that should be the sequel. Bear B&B. That has to be.
That'd be pretty cool.
Oh, man. God, I love puns. But no, yeah. It actually is a fun little game. And it's pretty cheap. And if you don't like it, Steam is great in that they let you recycle it in the first couple hours, so...
Yeah, 2 hours or 2 weeks.
Yeah, I have definitely bought games where I have like forgotten about them for 2 weeks and then played them and hated them and then couldn't return them.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? They shouldn't allow me to purchase games on my phone
Sucks.
because then I just start buying a bunch of random shit.
Right.
Hey, what was that game that you recommended me that was a strategy game that was really good? It was like Advance Wars.
Oh yeah, you do. Oh yeah, all right. We'll get a little bit more honorable mentioning up in this mug. It's called Imperial Arms: Curse of the Conqueror, and it is definitely that old style freaking. Is that the one you were talking about, by the way?
No, the one I was talking about was like more cutesy. It had like a female, like she was like I think she was a princess.
Yeah, that's the one. Imperial Arms: Curse the Conqueror.
It's called Imperial Arms? I don't think so.
Yeah, because it's like Fire Emblem, right? Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Wargroove.
Wargroove. Yeah, that's the one. But this looks cool too. Imperial Arms. I'm gonna check that out.
Imperial Arms: Curse the Conqueror and Wargroove. So Wargroove is really it's lightning round, and then we're gonna end this episode. So Wargroove is a reminiscent of the old tactics, Advance Wars tactics kind of games. It gets its combat very much from that. Imperial Arms, however, is a spiritual successor of Fire Emblem, which is one of my favorite. Both of those are actually two of my favorite franchises ever.
Yeah, it is good.
And they're both really good. Wargroove is phenomenal. It came out a couple of years ago, and it has like the best character in it is Caesar, who's your dog, and he's a fighter, and he's cool. He wears Roman armor. It's awesome. So both are great games. Go check them out. This definitely devolved into just a bunch of indie games that we wanted to play.
Pretty much.
But okay, we got to end this now, or we're just gonna keep talking about indie games. Nate, any final thoughts?
There's a lot of indie games that I want to play that haven't yet, like Cult of Lamb. Like that's been getting a lot of buzz. I don't know. Indie games seem like they're doing their own thing. You know, a lot of times I feel like I like the indie games more than some of the AAA games out there. So.
No, 100%, dude. A lot of the time, indie games, I feel like they put more effort into it. A lot of AAA developers, like, it feels like they know people are going to buy the game anyway, so they don't try as much.
Well, I was really disappointed with God of War, and I was trying to finish that for last week's podcast. So, but the whole time I'm like, I want to just finish Signalis, you know?
Yeah, dude. Like, God of War was just super disappointing. And we talk about that in our past podcasts. So if you want to hear us talk about God of War, go ahead and check our last podcast out. But yeah, we will do one of these indie things every month or so. We'll definitely have more of these coming your way. John, last thoughts.
Actually, one more. Valheim just got a new update. This might have been the actual release. It's a basically a exploration survival game set on servers based on 1 to 10 players, and it's a very difficult game. And they just got an update to where some of the maps that have been out but were empty, they've been filled.
Nice.
So definitely a game to check out. If you've played it, it's a good time to go back to it. And if you haven't, it's definitely a pretty fun game if you're a fan of the survival games.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. And as you know, every week, if you can follow this podcast or subscribe to it or whatever, favorite it, however you can do that. Just go ahead, and we usually release on Tuesdays at some point. Until then, though, we are 8-Bit Hindsight. I'm Rick.
I'm John.
Nathan.
And we love to have you guys here. We love to talk about video games. Y'all have a good day.